Good morning. I think this is going to be an outlook and a forecast that you will appreciate. Very, very straightforward as we look ahead here. But in short, we're looking at a delightful, outstanding. I will run out of superlatives here but we've got about a four stretch day stretch that is it's pretty unusual, a big change from where we've been. And I think again, if you had any plans to go outside or had a chance, this is this is the one you want to use. Given that, I'm going to start though looking at the last week, and to no one's surprise, all of the orange and brown here, much above normal temperatures region wide, certainly across all of Michigan, and those especially at night. Our nighttime temperatures were more above normal than our daytime, and of course the daytime temperatures weren't any bargain either. We also had dew point temperatures measuring the humidity here well into the 70s, unusual for Michigan and for an extended period of time. So a very warm, uncomfortable, muggy week that we've had. But the numbers here for the week, generally at least 6 degrees, in some cases more than 10 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. So that was probably the largest deviation we've had during the growing season. Again, and a lot of it was during the nighttime hours. On the right-hand side here, our precipitation. This has been an increasing, well, topic of concern here. And once again, we've seen this repeatedly for much of the last couple of months during the growing season, but highly variable precip rates. That's not completely unusual, but this year it's been more extended than is typically the case. And we have areas you can see on the map here now. This one, note that this map goes through Tuesday morning, and we did have, thankfully, some precipitation in some areas yesterday that really needed it. I'll show you that in just a moment here. But notice, especially along I-96 in the west central part of lower Michigan here, a lot of that area, which has become unfavorably dry here in recent weeks, less than quarter of an inch. To contrast that, down along I-94 and south. Also, some scattered areas in northern parts of the state that have been very wet, the opposite, more than 2 inches fell during the week. So, huge variability and swings, and that has resulted in just an incredible variability of moisture conditions. But there are certain, and from too little to excess, which again doesn't happen that often. But this season it has been that way. Um, Given soil moisture, given the rainfall patterns here on the left-hand side here, I think this sort of sums it up. These are percentiles of soil moisture in the top 3 feet or so of the profile. So looking at a large volume here, but relative to climatology, relative to normal. And the browns and dark browns and reds, those are all below normal for the last part. This goes through the 30th, this particular data set. Blues on this particular map indicate wetter than normal conditions. And you can see that for significant northern portions of the state, especially in upper Michigan and portions of the northern lower, and also down in the southeastern lower, that we've had, well, above normal precipitation, and our soil moisture levels are actually ahead or above where they typically are this year. However, again, a large portion of central lower Michigan down through the southwestern part of lower Michigan, lots of deficits. And that it's been especially true over the last 2 months. There's also an area, Saginaw Bay into part of the Thumb, that has been dry for even longer than that, going back to the beginning of the growing season that we've been monitoring it. It's been a little bit better recently, but the area that's really been a focus here recently, and some of it has to do with some of the lighter soils in this area, is the west central part of the state, especially in the vicinity of Grand Rapids, and then a little bit south from there. That area has been missed repeatedly for almost 2 months, and you can see some dark browns over in that part of the state, indicating that again, soil moisture way below normal. We obviously have moisture stress, and certainly in many rain-fed production systems, and it's been a problem. Right-hand side here, this is a collective satellite-based index of conditions on, and this looks at all vegetation, not just agricultural crops, but also natural vegetation as well. And browns and yellows here are stressed vegetation. Greens are the opposite. And again, it tells that same story with especially northern parts of the state with very lush, very green, very wet conditions, contrasted with too dry or unfavorably dry conditions in especially central lower and southwestern lower Michigan here. Degree day totals, thinking about those above normal temperatures for the vast majority of the Corn Belt and for much of Michigan, the oranges, reds here are all surpluses of degree days. That you're looking here at a total. These are seasonal totals beginning in May, assuming, and these are the 8650 cutoff degree days. That would be again the same numbers that are on the back of your seed corn and have a rating for your particular hybrid or cultivar. And for most of the state, except for some scattered northern parts of the state, we have a surplus. And given the forecast and where we're going, despite the next couple days here, but especially looking at the medium and longer lead outlooks, one would have to assume right now at this point in time, just we're almost at the end, we are at the end of July, and looking at the latter part of the growing season, we're going to have surpluses for the remainder of the growing season, and probably when all is said and done here this fall, we'll have positive departures. So those surpluses there, they translate to a few days to more than a week, a calendar week ahead of normal if we look at it in terms of time. But generally, for much of the state here, we do have surpluses with some minor deficits in the far north, but not big ones. Most of the region here again is ahead phenologically of typically where it usually is. Well, on our weather map here this morning, for most of you, you've already experienced, we've got some big changes underway or that already have occurred in the last 24 hours. The big feature here, there's actually two features of note. One of them is a frontal boundary off to our south and east. This is the system that brought the rainfall to southern parts of the state yesterday. There's still some of that left in the state, but it's on its way to the south and east. The other big feature, and this is the feature for the next several days, and that's this all these blue H's up here. Big area of Canadian high pressure. And it's believe it or not, it's actually there's some upper 30s temperatures reported in the Upper Peninsula this morning, where it cleared off and calmed down. But this is a cool air mass. It's also much less humid than what we've had over the last few days. So big changes, and it's going to lead to that air mass going to lead to an extended period of fair. Seasonably to maybe a little cooler than normal temperatures or conditions here over the next several days. That's a very high likelihood. It's almost well, there's no slam dunk in this business, as you know, but this is pretty close to it, the closest thing to it. On the radar screen here this morning, current conditions I mentioned on the left-hand side here, these are some air temperatures, and you can actually see up in the Huron Mountains, there's a air temperature of 33 this morning. That's even for them. It's quite extraordinary, but the lesson here is that we have much cooler, drier air moving from northwest to southeast across Michigan. Still some rain and some showers scattered down across the southeastern portion of the state. That is moving off to the east and south. It'll be with us for a couple more hours, but for most of the state today, we'll see that precip end in the southeast over the next few hours, and then decreasing clouds and cooler northerly winds, northeasterly winds, but very different conditions than what we've been dealing with for much of the last week. Now, I mentioned, of course, the problems and issues with dryness. This is an important map as well. These are some initial estimates from radar on what we saw yesterday for the precip and it's with the system that's down to our south in the Ohio Valley. We're on the northern edge of that, but notice here the greens here are half an inch or better. So especially some of the areas that were really dry recently here, again, Ottawa, Kent, Van Buren, counties over in west central lower Michigan, they picked up some of the most significant rain they've seen in several weeks. Now, that said, And that's a great thing. They really, really needed the water. But we are entering what is likely to be a very dry week. It's going to be cooler, but it's also going to be dry here with not much chance for precipitation over the next 7 days. So it was really good to see this coverage. It was fairly widespread coverage of precipitation. Most areas in the southern half of the state got at least a quarter of a half an inch. Now, not that they needed it. There was also some flooding down in places like Washtenaw County yesterday, too much of a good thing. But again, if you look at this in the big picture, especially those abnormally dry areas in the western part of the state, that was the most significant rain they've gotten in a while. So that's a good thing. Now, the looking here at the outlook and where we're headed, the big theme is if that we look at the upper air. These are forecast conditions for tomorrow morning. And what you see here on the upper air, the jet stream, we've got northwesterly flow. And we haven't had that. We've had it a couple times, but we're going to have a visit that this pattern here for the next several days. The map on the bottom, those are surface to air temperatures and the departures from normal. And the blues are all cooler than normal. The reds and oranges are above normal, and you can see the really distinct link or correlation between that northwesterly flow, again, that Canadian air flowing in from Canada into the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, and that basically describes the next several days in a nutshell. That's it. That's the most important weather feature that we have. Along with that, and this is we have something we haven't seen for a little bit of time, but as the flow turned back to the northwest, well, guess what's still there? And that's a lot, unfortunately, some of these wildfires and forest fires in Canada, Manitoba, Ontario, Saskatchewan. And as a result of this, because we did see a return flow from the northwest, some of that smoke has gotten down into the lower 48 again, including Michigan. So if you've noticed, it was a little bit hazy over the last couple of days. That's the reason why. It's another visit from our neighbors. Again, it's a problem that continues to go on. And whenever we see that airflow revert to that or into that, we're going to see the same thing for the remainder of the season. But this is just a reminder that the fires, unfortunately, are still burning and there's still smoke there. That'll be with us here for the next day or two, but in general, not expected to be a really severe outbreak. But there is actually an air quality advisory for much of the state of Michigan. I think almost maybe the whole state here for the next 24 hours, and that's the reason why. Again, mostly over the next 24 hours. So by tonight, our weather map, the features here, you can see things have shifted off to the south and east. All of the rain and precipitation is left the state. High pressure settling in right over the Great Lakes region. We will see temperatures today for highs from even the upper 60s north to generally 70s across the rest of the state, but much less humid, a little breezy with a northerly northeasterly wind expected here in the back of the high pressure as that cool air moves in. A little bit of haze because of the fire. By tomorrow morning, not much change. High pressure right over the region. Beautiful overnight conditions. Low temperatures tonight, again, down into the, well, 40s in the northern part of the state. Maybe some upper 30s uh, and 50s, low 50s as you go south. So it will be the coolest overnight temperatures we've had in southern Michigan for some time, for at least a couple weeks. And that'll be the case over the next few days. So looking again, high temperatures here for the next several days with fair skies, mostly sunny conditions on a given day, generally in the 70s during the day, and then into the 40s and 50s at night. Repeat. If again you're looking for that outdoor opportunity, you wanted to get out and take it, this is it. This is the time to go. And tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, all the way through Monday, that high pressure is going to be with us. Next chance for any precipitation, probably not until at least next Tuesday. And at this point, it doesn't look like a major weather system. So we could conceivably, for some of the state, go through. Here's Saturday morning. More of the same, almost the same map as we just saw. But for precipitation totals for the upcoming week, below normal. Certainly, that's almost a given. Some of the green that you see here, most of it's again less than a quarter of an inch. That's coming today. What's left with the scattered rain in the south, and then some of it the middle of next week on Tuesday and Wednesday. But again, no major rainfall events are expected here in the upcoming week. It will be almost certainly drier than normal. That's of course in those dry areas. That is something to think about. Even though we did fortunately have some rain yesterday, we're going to be going through another extended period without much in the way of water. In terms of water demand and looking at potential evapotranspiration rates here, pretty close to a little bit above normal, 1700s to 1900s of an inch per day. And you might say, well, I thought you said it was going to be cooler. Yes, that's true, but a lot of sunshine. And sunshine's driving some of this water demand here. So again, those rates are right at to just a little bit above what they typically would be here for the early part of the beginning of August. But the good news is, again, with the cooler temperatures, the stress would not be as well, certainly as severe or an issue as it would be given the conditions we had over the last couple of weeks. Into the medium range, more changes are expected, and that's an important. That's what I want to leave you with here. Both the 6 to 10 at 8 to 14 day outlooks are almost identical. And if you look at the jet stream forecast here, the ridge that's been with us over the continental U.S. here for much of the growing season and has led to an active weather pattern across the region or mu much of the region anyway, and above normal temperatures. That's going to shift a little bit further to the west. And but the big message is that the core of the jet stream here is a little bit further north than it typically is, and that is a very, very likely harbinger or of warmer than normal temperatures. So we're not done with summer, certain by any means. It's going to come back. Right now, the best guess would be maybe the beginning of the second week in August. We will see temperatures back. We should see actually high temperatures back up into the low and mid 80s by the middle of next week. But what we're looking at here is a little beyond that. And so some of the conditions that we saw last week and before, heat and humidity, likely will come back with this pattern. But notice above normal mean temperatures are forecast again, both through the 2 week period and also normal to above normal precipitation totals. So warmer and wetter, that's a very, very similar pattern to what we saw during much of July. And that it looks like that will return once again after this respite that we have here coming up over the next week. So wrapping up here again, some lingering rainfall in the far south here this morning. Other than that, high pressure moves in, and then again, take advantage of just a gorgeous string of weather here this upcoming weekend. Beautiful, beautiful conditions, seasonable temperatures, really cool nights, and while nothing in the way of precipitation expected after today until at least the middle of next week. But the return of the warmth, the heat, and probably humidity is not that far off by the middle of August, and possibly continuing beyond that as well.